All right, so finally, we made it. So your host, Taino L, the Galactic Talk, session 36. So for the people, we're sorry because we had some technical issues, but we finally made it. So without further ado, we have today our star speaker first of all. So from New York, my brother. So fierce truth seeker again in the building. Welcome, brother.
Welcome, peace, Islam, Shio. Yeah, it's the fierce truth seeker. Yeah, good to be back, man.
Yes, yes, yes. So last time that we met in July, Feerce told us that he had some extensive informations about the indigenous aboriginals, from the islands, the Antilles, or aka the Caribbean. So today, Feerce has a presentation. That document is extensive. So we're gonna do it in several parts, all right? And the title is The Aboriginal Moors of the Caribbean. So without further ado, Feerce, I'm going to share, all right, my screen so we could go and directly dive on that document, which is here. All right, bro. So I'll let you take the lead, bro. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So you want to start from that slide there? Let me see. That is let's see. That's slide number. Okay. Oh, you got one. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's the title. Aboriginal Moors of the Caribbean. Okay, and so basically, I know that we have a time frame that we're working with. So we're going to deal with just parts of it for tonight. And then the next time we'll cover some of the other parts. So without further ado, so Moors, as the indigenous people of the Caribbean, okay? And I want to first take a look at slide number 3. And slide number 3 is very important. And why it's important is because this is we're gonna look at a chapter from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And the reason why this is particularly important is because certain things that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali knew way back in the early 1900s is things that many of our scholars are just now starting to touch upon. Okay. And if we look at the next slide, which is number 4, we're looking at chapter number 47 of the Holy Quran, Circle 7, and it's entitled Egypt, the Capital Empire of the Dominion of Africa. Okay, and don't get hung up on the word Africa. You got a lot of people who have a problem with that, this, that, and the other. Don't worry about that, because when he talks about Africa, see this, you got to remember a lot of this stuff is there's a lot of hidden wisdom, and the Prophet Noble Drew Ali couldn't come with everything that he knew to the people. He had to kind of give it to you. He had to give you milk, before you can get the meat. So anyway, it says the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Okay. On the next slide, which is slide number 5, says Old Man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the Father and the Son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit Northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and habitation extended from Northeast and Southwest Africa across the Great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake, which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there. And that is very key because he's giving you the whole layout of the extent of our dominions, okay, over here in the West and over in the East as well, okay? And, you know, this also kills the argument that, you know, you have some people who, you know, say, well, you know, it's just, you know, the Moors were just, you know, it's just a thing with, you know, North America, you know, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, here it is right here, you know, in the very Holy Quran, Circle 7, you know, it specifically gives you, it says the Atlantis Islands, which is the Caribbean, okay? Also, let's see, we go to the next slide, which is number 6, okay? And on number 6, we see a map of Mu and Atlantis, okay? And this comes from James Churchward, okay? And if you see Mu over here in the far left, okay, you see the circles with the lines. It's showing you the dominions, North America, South America, okay, going through Central America, all the way to the island of Atlantis. By the way, the North America, South America, okay, you're talking about the mainland of Atlantis. What they call Atlantis in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean is the island of Atlantis. You had on the mainland, you had the mainland of Atlantis. So you see the lines going through there, going to Europe, going to Asia, going to Africa, okay? So you see the extent of our dominions, okay? And if you go to the next slide, which is number 7, okay?
And bro, that next slide is precious.
Yeah. You see from Mu, okay, the Pacific, okay, and the Amazon Sea, and it says what? The Negroid line. So, and don't get caught up in Negroid. That's just letting you know it's definitely talking about us, okay? And that's going through Central America, okay? And it says to Atlantis, to Africa, okay? South America, okay? And it says from an ancient Oriental map, 15,000 to 20,000 years old, okay? So, you know, we're talking about people who are very ancient, okay, and who actually ruled the whole planet, okay? Now, I want to go to slide number 9, okay? And it's very important that we deal with the Aboriginal Moors of the Caribbean because this is actually the jump-off point of what they call, quote unquote, so-called discovery, okay? When so-called Columbus came to the New World, you know, he came to the Caribbean, you know, and even that is another story for another time, you know, who Columbus really was and all that, but we can get into that in another discussion. However, you know,
You could give that teaser.
Sure. Okay, because you know there is stories out there where Columbus, you know, whether Columbus, well, first of all, his name wasn't Columbus, it was Cristobal Colon. Then they got all the theories that say that, well, if he was even really a real person. But that can get into, we'll let that hang, for another discussion, because that can get very lengthy. But that's dealing with the whole thing with the Knights Templar and all of that. So it gets really lengthy. However, so we're looking at, from the time of the so-called discovery, Columbus's observations in San Salvador. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you through different islands, and I'm going to show you the Moorish presence. Okay.
Perfect.
So now, Columbus's observations in San Salvador. So on October 12th, 1492 CE, Columbus landed on a little island in the Bahamas that was called Guanahani by the native Lucayan people. Columbus renamed the island San Salvador. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this is that Guanahani is derived from two Moorish words. It's two Moorish words derived from Mandinka and modified Arabic. Okay, Guana or Iquana means brothers, and Hani, a traditional Moorish Arabic name. Therefore, the original name of the island translates as the Hani brothers. Okay, so now, let's see here. Let's see. Now, P.V. Ramos, in an article that appeared in the Daily Clarion of Belize, Central America, on November 5th, 1946, wrote, when Columbus discovered the West Indies about the year 1493, he found there a race of white people, i.e. half-breeds. Let me just stop there. Everything is about context. So when he said white people, he was referring to more half-breeds and not white as we know it today. Not white as in Caucasian, okay? And how do we verify that? We verify that with the rest of the statement where he says, with woolly hair, from whom he called Caribs. Okay, so automatically that kills any argument about them being Caucasian or anything when you say woolly hair, because we have woolly hair, or what they call nappy hair or coarse hair. Okay, the hair that really locks. All right. They were seafaring hunters and tillers of the soil, peaceful and united. They hated aggression. Their religion was what? Mohammedanism, Islam, and their language, presumably Arabic. Okay. So now, if you go to, I'm going to skip down to, let's see, I'm going to go to, yeah, that picture right there is fine. Okay. That and you see, a picture is worth 1,000 words. It's actually not a picture, it's a drawing. But if you look at that drawing of these Arawak people, okay, you see they have brown skin, and you see the you see the invader there sitting at the table. You see that the distinction in skin tone. His skin tone is the 180 degrees different from theirs. Theirs is our complexion, and it's a no-brainer. Okay, so that's not even a debate. Just like when you just look at that picture or that drawing, should I say? So now I'm gonna skip down to not gonna get into everything.
And bro, Feerce, it's worth also mentioning that when we're talking about the powers that would be, right? So Spain, France, French, the monarchies were millimeter beings, you know what I'm saying, as well, right?
Hello?
Yeah, you hear me, bro.
I hear you now.
Yeah, no, it's worth mentioning that, the powers that be at that time, when we talk about the conquistadors, right? Whether it's Spain, French, all in whatsoever, the monarchs were individual with, again, I'm saying, going from dark skin complexions to, like you mentioned, mix whatsoever. So just for the
Right.
people, I'm saying, yeah. So keep going, bro.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a fact. Okay. Um, so I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna get into everything. I'm gonna skip down to let's see here, where are we? Um there's a if you look on page 25, I'm not page, I mean scroll 25, okay, you see Arawaks from Suriname, okay, and if you look, you can see a variety of phenotypes there. You have some that have somewhat of an East Indian type of look. You have some that have like a Pacific Island type of look. You have some that have like an African type of look, um, or Indigenous American type of look. And you can look from that and see that and you can obviously see that their complexions are quite dark as well, and this is a modern day photo. So imagine back in Columbus's time, because they were they were also different influences and different peoples that came here to the Americas, and also not only that, but also there were a lot of people that we thought came to the Americas who actually originated in the Americas and went out to different parts. But that's we'll get into that in another discussion, because I see the clock is ticking, and I'm gonna leave that for another discussion. So let me
No
see.
worries, bro. And bro, by the way, Azazel or Azaria is give you a shout out, man. He's on the
Oh,
chat,
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my boy. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We go back a long ways, man. A long ways. Yeah. So now, let's see here. I want to go to number 26.
Sure.
Okay. So now here on number 26, this is another island in the Caribbean. It's called Guana Island. Okay. Guana is that same word, guanahani, like guanahani, that same first half of that word. Okay. Guana, which is Moorish Arabic, meaning brothers. And when you say the word Guana, it's like Ghana in West Africa. Okay. And this is right in the Caribbean. Okay. And so we're going to different islands. So now go to the very next slide, number 27. Okay. And so we're talking about the Arawaks, right? So if we look at this book here entitled Tituba, The Reluctant Witch of Salem, Devilish Indians and Puritan Fantasies by Elaine G. Breslaw. Now, what's interesting about Tituba is that it's assumed by a lot of people that she was African, because she's referred to as the Negro slave. Okay. However, she was actually an Arawak. Okay. Um, that was taken from Barbados. Okay. Now, what's interesting also is that Tatuba is played a major role in kicking off the what they refer to as the witch hunts the in Massachusetts. Okay. And if you look at the next slide, I'm going to read a little something here. It says, with this important book, Elaine G. Bradslaw has found Tatuba the inclusive, mysterious, and often mythologized Indian woman, okay, accused of witchcraft in Salem in 1692 and immortalized in Arthur Miller's The Crucible, okay? And there was a movie that came out back in the days called The Crucible. I'll show you a picture of that. So whoever wants to check that movie out, but that particular movie, it featured Tatuba and the whole witch trials. So going on, it says, reconstructing the life of the slave woman at the center of the notorious Salem witch trials, the book traces Tatuba from her likely origins in South America to Barbados, forcefully dispelling the commonly held belief that Tatuba was African. The uniquely multicultural nature of the life on a 17th century Barbadian sugar plantation, defined by a mixture of English, American Indian, and African ways and folklore, indelibly shaped the young Tatuba's world and the mental images she brought with her to Massachusetts. Okay. By dividing her biography into two parts, the one focusing on Tatuba's roots in Barbados, the other on her life in Massachusetts, Bradslaw emphasizes the inextricably linked worlds of the Caribbean and the North American colonies, illustrating how the Puritan worldview was influenced by its perception of possessed Indians. Okay, so she was indigenous. Okay, and when you go to the next slide, there is an image from the Witches Museum in Massachusetts. Okay, and you see here on the left, you see one of the wax images of Tatuba, and this is definitely not an image of what they call a Mongoloid Indian of Asian, of modern day Asian persuasion, like, you know, in the Westerns. Okay, you can plainly see she's dark skinned. You know, if she was indeed someone who was Mongoloid, you know, they would have her more the complexion of the other people in this picture, because that's the complexion that, you know, many of them are today, the modern day. Okay. When you go down to 30, you see another image of her in that same museum. Okay. So, okay, I want to go to, there's more to that, but I'm gonna skip so that we can get into some other slides. We can do, if you go to 35, this is that movie. If anybody wants to check that movie out, The Crucible, is featuring Charlene Woodard. Okay, and as you can see here, Charlene Woodard is playing Tatuba. Okay, and they always refer to her as the old Negro slave woman. Okay, also further evidence is when you look at Tatuba in the court records, you can see that she, certain points in time, they referred to her as Negro. At other points, they referred to her as Indian. Okay, and you can see how later on, they were making different references to her. Like the more later it got, first they were calling her Indian, then later on it became Negro. I have those documents as well, but I'm not gonna deal with that in this presentation because we want to, we want to cover. We just want to give an overview due to the time limit. So if you go to the next slide, which is 36, okay? So now we're talking about Caribbean obia, okay? Anybody who's from the Caribbean and knows anything about what they call folk magic and things like that has heard the term obia. Obia is thought to be African, okay? And right here I have an article where it's stating that obia, sometimes spelled OBI, OBEA, or OBIA, is a term used in the West Indies to refer to folk magic, sorcery, and religious practices derived from West Africa and especially Igbo origin. Obia is similar to other African-derived religions, including Palo, Voodoo, Santeria, root work, and most of all, hoodoo. Obia is practiced in Suriname, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominica, Guyana, Barbados, Grenada, Belize, and other Caribbean countries. Okay, now here's the thing. So there may have been some influences from Africa on Obia. However, what is seriously neglected is the indigenous aspect of this, because when you go to the next slide, number 37, I show you that Obia comes from the Arawak Aboriginals, and Obia is actually an Arawak word, okay? So it says here, the Tainos also believed that the forest was inhabited by Opias, Opias. Opias were the spirits of the dead, and one could identify them because they lack a navel. Okay, now let me just interject here. So they're saying it comes from Opia. Now, when you study phonetics, articulatory phonetics, the P and the B, as in Opia and Obia, the P and the B is basically the same, you're dealing with the same letter, okay? It's just that one is voiced and the other is voiceless. The P and the B, okay? P is what they call voiceless in articulatory phonetics. The B, you can feel the vibration, that's called voiced, okay? So the P is just voiceless and it's aspirated, okay? So you're talking about the same word here. So it says they lack a navel. They were supposed to come out of the forest at night and feast on guayaba fruit. In fact, it is tropical bats that eat guavas at night. Thus, the Taino association of Opias with bats. Opias also are associated with the deities who rule the world of the dead. According to Ramon Payne, they say a certain semi, which is the Taino idols, Opi Yel Goberon had 4 feet like a dog and is made of wood. And often he comes out of the house at night and enters the forests. They go out there to seek him and bring him back to the house. They bind him with cords, but he returns to the forest. The classic example of this semi reportedly came from a cave in the Turks and Caicos. Various beliefs in supernatural spirits were brought to the West Indies from Africa by enslaved peoples. It is likely that these beliefs were influenced by the last remaining native peoples. One of the modern words for spirits of the dead, obia, may originally have come from the Taino word opia. Okay, and here I give the reference in the, if anybody wants to look this information up, because it's just an excerpt from an article that's even more extensive. The reference is https://www.timespub, timespub.tc, and those are in uppercase, /2005/09/ talking Taino obia and zombies / okay. So now you go to 38. There's a picture from the movie The Crucible where Tituba is teaching the young Caucasian girls or the young Albion girls obia from the Caribbean. Okay, now when you go to 39, you have a Kalinago man. Now we're dealing with St. Vincent and the Caribbean, I'm sorry, which is my maternal line. Okay, and when you see this Kalinago man of St. Vincent and the Caribbean, you look at it, you look at his skin, brown skin, okay, and you see the hair, woolly hair. All right, so it's this is an indigenous man of the Caribbean, okay, and if you want to see where you can look at the video where you could see these people here still in living traditional. You go to this site on page 40 on YouTube, okay, St. Vincent Kalinagos, okay, and I guess they can see that on your screen. So just go back and watch the video again, and you can just copy that link, and you'll see there. So if you go to 41, this is showing you where St. Vincent is. So if you look to the very bottom, you got you see South America. You see Venezuela there. St. Vincent is, if you look up, you see the Trinidad flag there, the red with the black stripe in the middle. Okay, yeah. You go up 1, 2, 3 from there. You see the Vincentian flag from St. Vincent. So you see how close it is to Venezuela right there, which is where my paternal twice removed grandfather came from. Because you see it's right there. So many people just hopped right across on a boat right there. So now I want to go to let me see how many, so we're running out of time.
We still have 15, 20 minutes, bro.
Okay. Yeah. So if you want to know more about the Kalinago or Garifuna people, you can read this book on page 42. Black Caribs, Garifuna, St. Vincent's, exiled people, and the origin of the Garifuna, a historical compilation edited by Tomas Alberto Avila. Okay, and there's a good section in here that talks about how a lot of theories about where the Garifuna people come from, the Garifuna people of St. Vincent. And these are people who you find them today in Honduras, you find them in Belize, You find them in many of those surrounding countries there. They were originally coming from St. Vincent, okay? And anytime you hear about, not anytime, but oft times, when they talk about people that look like us that are indigenous, they make up these theories about shipwrecked Africans or shipwrecked slaves. You know, that's a lot of the theories that they say, even here in North America, you know, among certain tribes, they say the same thing. Okay. And in this book here on page, let me see what page this is page 19 in that book. Says here, give me 1 second. Actually, I think even better is I think the second page. Wait, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up the right one.
All good, bro.
Let's see here. Okay, here it is. Okay, so if you go to slide number 46, it says here, the notion that Africans arrived on St. Vincent via the crash of a slave ship is the most frequently encountered. It is generally agreed upon that this crash occurred in 1635. Cayetano and Cayetano, 1997, those are the people who, we can skip that one. Those are just, he's giving the credits here of the people who gave this information. Says the story in, let's say although Cazimius believes that it occurred in 1675, the story involves two Spanish ships that crashed somewhere to the south of St. Vincent, and for a long time was thought to be the first contact between the island Caribs and Africans. In 1928, Cazimius writes, in 1675, a ship with a load of Negro slaves destined for Barbados was wrecked in front of the small island of Bequia near St. Vincent. He continues that the Africans on this boat made their way to St. Vincent, where they formed a colony apart from the Indians with whom they intermarried. Over the past century, this story has been told in several different variations with slightly different dates for the wreckage, different nationalities of the ships, and different locations for the crash. Despite the loose evidence that the claims for the shipwreck are based upon, this had the most important, if not singular, arrival theory for Africans on St. Vincent until quite recently. Writing in 1985, Gulick cast serious doubt on the date and nationality of the ships. If they were Spanish, they must have been transferring slaves from one Spanish colony to another, as the Portuguese transported the Spaniard slaves across the Atlantic route. This origin sounds unlikely, as does any slave boat being in the immediate area before 1640, when sugar and plantations were introduced. The most recent ethnography of the Kalinago calls the whole incident into question. Hardly any details on the incident are available. Things like how the slaves got off the ships are not clear. Where did the slaves come from and how many were on board? There are too many questions to assume that the incident with the two ships is the primary cause of African influence on St. Vincent. It is quite unclear exactly how, when, or from where Africans arrived on St. Vincent. The fact remains that they did arrive, and this raises the question of the nature of the relationship between the Africans and the Amerindians. Much like the record of Arawak-Carib relations, there is little evidence, many conflicting ideas. And many conflicting ideas. All scholars agree that there was intermarriage, hence Kalinago, but there is no consensus as to the nature of this marriage. Excuse me. And each scholar seems to have their own version. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there and interject. So, a lot of this stuff people are theorizing because these people have dark skin. So they're assuming, okay, they, had to have been slaves coming from Africa, okay, or shipwrecked. They couldn't just be indigenous, Now, this book is written by a Garifuna, okay, and they do, say that they have African roots, this, that, and the other. What I do know as well, that's not to say that they don't, but I do know that a lot of the history that I hear a lot of the Kalinago, of the Garifuna talking about is relying on those old sources that haven't been properly vetted, and it's not coming from their own oral history. I do know that they do talk about being products of the Malian expeditions that came with Abubakari, okay, and his predecessor, okay. So, that's a possibility too. It doesn't mean necessarily that that was their origin. It could be, that they came and mixed in with indigenous dark-skinned people that were already here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now I want to go to 48. So now the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Okay. So now the natives or the indigenous people named the island Haruna. They also call it Harun and Urame. Those are the two names, Haruna and Urame. Now, Haruna is a Moorish name, meaning Aaron, who was Moses's older brother in the Torah. Okay, so that's very key. Okay, the indigenous people. This is not an outside influence. This is the indigenous people named that island Haruna and Urame. Okay, and now when we look at the next slide, we're going to look at the other name of St. Vincent, which is Urame. Okay, now Urame is strikingly similar to the Hebrew word Yuramahayu, okay, which is Jeremiah in the Bible. Okay, so we have very strong evidence of Moors here. Okay, very strong evidence of Moors. And we're talking about all throughout the Caribbean. Okay. Now here's another thing here. Also, Urami in Japanese. Okay, it's also a Japanese word, Urami, which means slack or looseness. Okay, so I mean, this is another area that needs to be further investigated, but I thought it worth noting, because we're just doing a lot of information, a lot of research on the surface right here, and it could go even deeper, but I'm just presenting some information for others to come behind this and do even further research. Okay.
Right on.
So now let's see here. Let's skip down. I want to take a look at number 54. And when you look at 54, you see a drawing of these Caribs, so-called Caribs. Okay, these Kalinago people in St. Vincent. And you look at the very, very brown skin. You look at the bushy hair. Okay. And when you go to the next slide, you see a drawing. It takes place in St. Vincent. And the gentleman with the head wrap, the red head wrap, is Joseph Chatoyer. Okay. And
say that again, bro.
Joseph Chatoyer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he died on March 14th, 1795. Okay. A Garifuna chief who led a revolt against the British government of St. Vincent in 1795. He is a national folk hero of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Also, Belize and other of those countries that he fought for during the war.
So,
okay.
Say that again, that year against the
1795.
And you know what, bro? That's key, because at that particular time, you have King George, let's say the head of the British powers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more King George the Third, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So again,
that's right.
You have that. So you have that battles between indigenous people from various factions.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. And if you look at number 56, that's another drawing of Chatoyer. Okay. And at 57, this is the former Kalinago chief, Garnet Joseph. He was chief of the Kalinago from 1999 to 2004 and 2009 to 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he was from Dominica, I believe.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And let's see here. I want to go to. I'm gonna skip down to.
And in the meantime, bro, we could tackle one last topic, and you could give a strong summary and your synthesis. You see?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, because we have how much time left?
Take whatever time you need, bro. 10, 15.
Okay, so you basically want me to sum up what we've went over thus far?
Sure, especially with the the whole narratives that what went on here on the island, and the fact that you have several indigenous people from different factions, and with the conquistadors that were the main figures were, again, dark skinned, or melanated individuals. So, and you get that war, what I'm saying, that's were spread it throughout not only the highlands but the whole continent, right? So, and the special map that you show from the James Church Ward, where the migration from Mu to the Great Atlantis, North South America to the Atlantis Island. So
Mm-hmm.
you could give your synthesis on this, bro.
Sure, sure. Yeah. What you say there is very key because we've been given a narrative that all of these people who were conquering were pale, okay? And the reality is a lot of those people who were conquering and colonizing look like us. We just have to, be real about that, okay? And,
Yeah,
I always tell people, you had different types of Moors, you had Moors over. See, a lot of people, they want to paint more with just, a single stroke. However, you had different Moors, okay? Some Moors were good, some Moors were not good,
that's right. That's right.
and you can't say all Moors are bad for what the bad Moors did, or for the Moors that were doing unscrupulous things did. I mean, if that's the case, somebody could say, well, all of you niggas are no good. Black people do this, black people do that. Y'all are all thieves, all of y'all, cheat in school. Y'all don't go to school. Y'all don't do this. Y'all don't do that, point the finger, But is that the reality? Can you paint all people who look like us with the same brush here in the modern day? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. And it was no different. I always tell people, there's nothing new under the sun. What you see going on today was going on back then. You had bad people back then who look like us. You got bad people today who look like us. You got good people today who look like us. And you had good people back then who look like us. You had people who came from across the waters. You had those Moors from over in the East, from over in Europe, and you had indigenous Moors that were here, okay? And sometimes those interactions were very good interactions. And we traded with each other. And we intermarried with each other. Other times, those interactions were hostile. And we were warring with each other. Okay? So that's the reality of it. The more when I get to come back again,
Bro, but what you mentioned, the last part, very key, because one of the greatest
what,
example,
what was that? What was the last part?
no, the mention, when you mentioned that interaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interaction sometimes was fructious, sometimes the opposite. And one
Yeah.
of the greatest example was the, I'm going to say, so-called Haitian Revolution. Because when it
Yeah.
happened, you still has, British, wherever invade, Haiti, British, Spain, France. You look at the generals, at the dukes, at the monarchies. You're gonna find it's the same people that looks like the indigenous people that were already on the island. So I'll let you keep dropping the your thoughts in there, your wisdom on it.
Yeah. You're right, man. You're right. You know, And it's just that people want to demonize the Moors and things like that. But if you do that, then you're demonizing yourself. Because whether you like it or not, the Moorish presence was heavy here. And most of the people who are demonizing the Moors, they've got Moorish ancestry themselves. Mm-hmm. And we have indigenous Moorish ancestry, and those people also came over here, and many of them intermixed with our people. That's documented. I mean, it's not even debatable.
Yeah.
I have when I get to come back again, I'm gonna show you some documents that even further reinforces that sentiment. Mm-hmm. And I just say, you just have to keep an open mind. You don't know all about your genealogy. Some people think just because they can go back a few generations that they know everything about you. You don't know what happened in your genealogy 1,000 years ago. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what happened in your genealogy 2,000, 3,000 years ago, So, you can't just get stuck in one paradigm and say, oh, yeah, y'all this, y'all that, because you may be just that thing that you're pointing your finger at and turning your nose up at,
Exactly.
But when I come back, I'm going to show some documents that just brings it right on home.
All right. Sounds good. And bro, I want you to, drop your wisdom on that particular photo, right? But what we talking here, or what you've been showing, we're not involving, the magics. So when I'm saying like this, we're not involving, how ancient people went underground in the subterranean world, or how they traveled to the portals there and there. So we're not involving this. And that's another thing too.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Because they already know, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
So I do want to share this because that was one of the highlights. There are several things, but one of the highlights, that precious ancient maps, I'm saying, that was kept, in Tibet. Yep. So please drop your wisdom and your findings.
Sure.
With this map and the whole story, that we're going to keep it short, but
okay.
Please go ahead, bro, Feerce.
Okay, sure. Because the people here in the West, are actually a very ancient people, and when I look at this map, I think of the Empress of the Washita, Empress Ferdiasi Tiari Ghostin Il Bay. Okay. And she said it way back in the days, that the Washitas were people from Mu, and they were from here. Okay. She said, we are people, we are Moors, M-U apostrophe U-R-S, Moors from Mu, akin to the Moors, M-M-M-O-O-R-S, of West Africa. Okay. And when you look at this map, you're looking at evidence of that, because you see the migration, from Mu. And they specifically say here, the Negro line of immigration, okay, to Atlantis, to Africa, okay? And it says here, City Marica, right at the bottom. So Marika, Morica. Okay, because when you talk about the Moors, people are just talking about the Moors over in the East, but the Moors came from here in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, came from here
Drop
in
it
the
up.
West.
Drop that again, bro.
Okay, the Moors, a lot of people think of the Moors as coming from the East and coming here to the West, but the Moors came from the West and came from the West and traveled east originally. Okay, and I have evidence and slides that show you that many different place names in the Americas, in South America, Central America, and North America, that are named Morocco. Okay, and this was names given by the indigenous people, not names that someone came here and gave the name to, but it's actually named by the indigenous people. And also the Dakota elder named Meredith Musa Quinn in the book Dakota Time Walkers. In his book, he talked about, and Meredith Musa Quinn, he was a Dakota who dropped a whole lot of information that you don't hear hardly anybody from the tribes talking about. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he said he got his middle name Musa from his forebears, who told him that they gave him that name because of that ancient history. Okay. And that's why he was given the name Musa. Okay. But he said in his book that the word Moor started with the Indian. And this is coming from a Dakota Indian. Okay. And so that's coming directly from the horse's mouth. Okay.
Yeah. Could you say that his name again? Because he did share a lot of stuff though.
Meredith Musa Quinn, like Anthony Quinn.
Yeah.
Meredith Musa Quinn. And he wrote a book. It's out of print. It's called Dakota Time Walkers. And boy, that's a powerful book. That's not an easy read. You know, he talks about all kind of metaphysics. You know, he talks about how, you know, they had he talks about how they had stargates and, you know, all that kind of stuff, how they were building, you know, machines and stuff like that, you know, right here in the Americas, you know, and you know, all kind of stuff. I mean, that book there will blow you away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dakota Time Walkers. And you know, that it gets really deep. But again, you know, looking at this map here, you know, this map is something you got to look at and meditate on, you know, because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, you know.
Yeah.
And you just you know, like I said, you have to keep an open mind, you know, and just be seeking the truth. You know, that's why I was given the name Feerce Truth Seeker. You know, like a lot of people, you know, who have indigenous names, you know, they just chose a name for themselves. You know, oh, I'm going to call myself this. Now, I was given this name in a naming ceremony, indigenous naming ceremony, you know, because it fit my character, because they say you call me the Feerce Truth Seeker because I'm always seeking the truth, not trying to prove a point just because I feel a certain way. I seek to tell the truth, and I can change something that I said on the drop of a dime if I find out that it's incorrect, because I'm seeking the truth, with no other hidden motives other than to tell the truth.
Right on, bro. Right on, bro. And
Yeah.
while we on that vibration, right? There's a question actually from the chat, right?
Sure.
So I'm gonna read it to you. All right. So
Sure.
peace to you, Yusuf Mutadu L. So could he talk about the Hebrew names that some of the so-called Indians had, if you have certain information regarding this?
Yeah. Are you talking about tribes or are you talking about individuals?
You could go at both, actually.
Okay. Again, like we spoke earlier about the the island of St. Vincent. Then also, if you look at let me go to another slide here. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Take your time, bro.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up. As you know, this is a lot of slides.
Yeah. So keep in mind, people. So Feerce is going to come back again. So today was part 1 of the Aboriginal Moors of the Antilles, known as Caribbean. And that document alone has 170 pages. So Feerce Truth Seekers definitely going to come back on the Galactic Talk to spread more of his foundings.
Okay, so this is kind of spoiling. I wanted to hold this for the next one, but okay, I guess I'll leave him with a cliffhanger.
Sounds good, bro.
So let's see here. If we go to slide number 94.
All right, give me one moment. I'm gonna go. So slide 94.
94.
All right.
Okay, so Haiti, or Haiti, as some people say it, but the indigenous name is Haiti. In anglicized spelling, the land of high mountains by the Taino. The proper is Haiti. This is Hebrew, A-H, our Father. Et, with me. Yah is with me. Okay. The other name for Haiti is Kiskeya. Okay. Like St. Vincent, it has 2 names. Okay. The highlands of Yah. Okay. And that's the other name given by the indigenous people. Okay. Now what's interesting about that is I'm not going to put all of the slides in regard to that. I'll save that for when we come back, but I'll skip down to another slide. This is where it gets kind of crazy here, because if you look at slide number 96, you see the island of Haiti, and it looks like the Hebrew pictograph for the ox head, meaning power, authority, and strength.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. And
yeah, it's kind of crazy there, you know.
Yeah.
But I'll leave that as a cliffhanger so that y'all make sure you tune in to the next show when I come back.
And you know what? What's really interesting, and so Musuf, you might like that one. So, Brother Feerce, you show right because Ibri or Hebrew was spoken by the indigenous people in the islands. But you know what's funny? Because you showed Ayati, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, chief or chiefess. So we'll take the name, right? So it's Kasik, right? So Ka for land, Sik for chief, right? So as you know, Kasik in Arawak, but in Hebrew, and it's a ruler, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
Katsik, you see?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same word in Arawak and in Hebrew. So we're not talking about coincidence here. You see,
Right, exactly.
that's what it
You know,
is.
yeah. At what point, does possibility become probability?
Yeah.
And again, we're talking about, because a lot of people, when they think of Moors, they just think Islamic, but, the Moors were, you had Moors that were Hebrew, and you had Moors that were Islamic as well. I mean, Islamic as well, So
Mm-hmm.
it's broader than just Islam per se.
Exactly. And
Moorish is inclusive.
yeah,
When you talk
exactly.
about Moors, it's inclusive
Exactly.
as
Exactly.
opposed to exclusive. But you got a lot of people who want to, just be exclusive, and this is why, a lot of us can't get along today because we're so busy playing up our differences instead of playing up what we have in common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we're never gonna get together as a people if we just keep with the all of the tribal nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's what keeps us down. Instead of trying to find a way to be divided from your brother, look to see, hey, we got even more in common. We
Yep.
got a lot more in common.
Yeah, bro. Well
Yeah.
said. Well said. All right. So Jonas Guzman, so the chief of the Kiowa Indians in South Carolina, is also called Cacique. Well, because the whole Arawak family thing was from the south of United States up to Venezuela.
That's
So,
right.
you
Thank
know what I'm
you.
saying?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, because I got those documents here too. You got the Arawaks penetrated all the way from the Caribbean, going down to Florida, going all the way down to the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All right.
that's a
So,
fact. I
yeah,
have that documented.
sounds good, bro. So, thank you, Jonas. Edwidge Doozy, Toussaint L, Sac Passe, Bridget Saino, Galactic Talk is real talk. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So, thank you more. And we have our star speaker here, Fear Truth Seeker. So, brother, I'm looking for part two
Okay.
because I know you have, more intel. And we probably, you know what? I will let you to probably go on you know, at the same time you're giving that intel on the historic part, we might talk about, let's say the metaphysical aspect that's linked with the historical events, you know what I'm saying? So
Sure.
I know there's stuff that you might be able to share, but you have degrees in information in shamanism, so we'll have to bring, I'm saying, that paradigm about metaphysical accounts, even though some might like scientific stuff, but a lot of metaphysical things has been happening, you know that's linked like this with historical things. So sounds good. Sounds good.
Sure. Definitely.
All
Definitely. We'll
right.
do that.
All right. Yeah. So, bro, I let you probably, the last word regarding the part one and the paradigm of how ancient, you know, people are
Sure.
at the surface of the planet. We're not talking now, the undergrounds. That's another ballgame. But
Hmm.
please go ahead, bro.
Oh yeah, indeed. It gets real deep. I mean, it gets real deep. You know, we are definitely an ancient people. Okay, so ancient that so far the oldest DNA that's found is found right here in the Americas. Okay, Albert Perry, A00. Okay, they call him the father of DNA. So we're definitely a very ancient people. And like you say, underground, we if you study the Moorish science, you know that the Moors were definitely doing a lot underground, you know. Also, it even gets even deeper than that because there's even, if you really go really deep into it, you're going to find out that there's even more land, even beyond the poles. Okay. We're told that we have 7 continents spinning on a globe with just 7 continents. But there are many, 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 hundreds more continents. Okay, I got that evidence too.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
now we even might talk about the etheric cities that's up in the upper layers, I'm saying, of the atmosphere and
Mm-hmm.
the different, inner worlds. So definitely, bro.
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
So I think it's time in these times to really talk about this because his stories involve all the different realities, I'm saying, on the
True.
ground, up, I'm saying, at the surface, I'm saying, the invisible world that we might call it like this. So, um,
Exactly.
I'm looking forward, I'm saying, for part two with
Yeah.
Feerce Truth Seeker. All right. So we're
Yeah,
gonna
I
definitely
appreciate it.
anytime, bro, what I'm saying? So you're more than welcome on the Galactic Talk. All right. So
Thanks.
um people, thank you of being here. So then again, Fierce Truth Seeker from New York. All right. So he has a good, vast amount of knowledge in terms of indigenous historical accounts, landmarks, you see, and Oni as well. I'm going to call it Oni metaphysical as well, perspective as well. So, Fierce Truth, I'm looking with the people for part two pretty soon. All right, bro.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. And on that note, this is Fierce Truth Seeker. Daughter dog on hunting. Peace.
So you heard the brother. So peace to all the people that's gonna watch it, who's been watching it. All right. And